Much. Joining us now to discuss, the Republican from Ohio, Congressman Mike Turner, former chair of the House Intelligence Committee, currently on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. So President Trump said he instructed his envoy, Steve Witkoff, to discuss, quote, concepts of land with the Russians. Is it just a given that Ukraine is ultimately going to have to cede land to get peace? And are you concerned at all about what kind of message that sends to the rest of the world?
Well, I think in the president's message today, the first thing that's the most important is that he continues to focus on the fact that thousands of lives continue to be lost, that this is a war that where the result of the front line continuing to be a loss of life is a tragedy. And with that, we're not seeing that line move, even with an unbelievable amount of effort by the United States, where there's been spring offensive, there's been tanks, there's been additional weaponry, there's been advanced weaponry, that line has not moved. If this was just set to continue, we would see a war of attrition and perhaps ultimately Russia marching across Ukraine and an ultimate loss by Ukraine, which again would have a greater threat to Russia and, a greater threat to both the rest of Europe and to NATO itself. So what the president has said is the goal here is the preservation of Ukraine, the stopping of the loss of life. So when he talks about the issue of land, it's a realization here of stopping the conflict itself. Now, what we also see is that Zelensky here is no longer the impediment, and Putin is now in a place where he understands that he doesn't have a whole lot of options. Trump has said openly that he is willing to put pressure on Putin, increase sanctions, increase the support for Ukraine, so that Putin now understands that he's dealing with President Trump in the United States in a manner which he is going to have pressure on Russia, where Russia is going to have to accept that both ceasefire and peace negotiations are going to occur, and he's going to come to the table.
So let's listen to a little bit more from the Oval Office meeting today.
Some of our allies have said that they're worried that they could be the next to be attacked by Russia. You've spoken directly with the Russian president. Yeah. Do you think those fears are justified?
No, I don't. I think when this gets done, it's done. They're going to all want to go home and rest. I don't see it happening.
Do you think they're going to go home and rest?
Well, I think it's back to what I just said and how I was portraying what he was saying, is that if you continued this conflict where there's this pressure on this line and Russia marches across Ukraine, that yes, there is a threat to the rest of Europe and the rest of NATO. And the president sees that if you bring an end to this conflict, that it lessens the overall threat to Europe, because you don't have an ongoing war, an ongoing threat to Europe from an aggression from Russia. But that doesn't mean that Russia is no longer a threat to Europe. And I don't think he's saying that. I mean, I think that's why you continue to have NATO. You continue to have a strong alliance. You certainly see that Russia, the evil empire, is still a threat to the United States and Europe. But it does mean that you have turned down the overall threat and you've ended an active military conflict in Europe.
Let's listen to one of your colleagues on the Armed Services Committee, Republican Congressman from Nebraska, Don Bacon, said on CNN earlier this week.
Ukraine is our ally. They want to be part of the West. Russia is our adversary. And it's time that this administration gets this in their brain. They're treating Putin with velvet gloves, and they're being harsh to our allies.
Do you agree with Congressman Bacon?
Well, I think, as you saw in the conflict that occurred with Zelensky and Trump in the Oval Office, where the president was saying, look, I could, sit here and say bad things about Putin, but it's not going to get us anywhere closer to peace. There certainly are those who have angst about the manner in which the rhetoric is that comes out of the White House. But I think if you look at the plotting of the policy that's coming out of the White House, and certainly how this is unfolding, I mean, you have right now Vladimir Putin saying that he is leaning towards a 30-day ceasefire, and that he's leaning toward entering into peace negotiations, the closest that we've gotten, and that we have ongoing negotiations as to what the elements would be of those peace negotiations. And those are incredibly important, both to Europe, Ukraine, and the United States. I think this is the beginning of a breakthrough that could be incredibly important, and it's certainly for those, and I am as you know, Jake, I'm a huge supporter of Ukraine, huge supporter for peace in the region, and certainly understand the threat that Russia poses both to the United States and to Europe. this is important, and I think it's certainly something that this administration, the Trump administration, if they achieve it, will be incredibly important for security in the region.
All right, Republican Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, thanks so much. Good to see you, sir.